evening, everybody. Excuse the noise just behind, that's Mark just settling down. Welcome this evening to our little class on how to make the Two Fold Folio. I'm really glad that you could all join me this evening. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the actual structure of the book today, and we're going to make that together. I have already just put the tutorial into the group so that if you want to download it, certainly, hi Sarah, the page about the cutting guide, you might find it a little bit easier to get on with. Hi Maggie, hi Lou. So that's actually in the group now, ready for you to download. So as I said, what I want to do today is actually make the structure of the book, and then we'll get on to decorating it at a future class. But what I'm thinking at the moment is going to be far better, is for us to, well, for me to go away and actually decorate this separately so that you can just watch me do it. But I'll speed it up the bits that you don't really need to know too much. But I know that there are some specific parts of the decorating that people are asking about. For instance, how I attach my magnets, and also how I deal with weird sort of angles. So I will do that hopefully over this weekend. Hi Sandy, hi Wendy, and then hopefully you could just follow on at your leisure. Hi Delia. Oh, hi Mark. You're watching, that's good to know. So without further ado, I'm just going to turn my camera around so that you can actually see the book. We'll just have a quick look at the book first, and then we'll get on with making. So 2 seconds while I just do this. I've been fiddling around with this weekend, so I might have to just turn that around. You get a lovely view of the ceiling again. I know how much you all love looking at my ceiling. Right, let's get this in. Oh, as you can tell, technology is absolutely my thing. Oh, this is because I messed with it this weekend. I did take some pictures in here, and I had to remove my stand, and it's never been the same since, needless to say. Right, that looks better. How's that? Everybody got a good view? Right, okay. So what you're going to need tonight is you are going to need your white card. You are going to need your trimmer, if you've got one. You're going to need Tyvek if you've got it, but I will come on to that in a moment. And then some glue, some double-sided tape if you've got it, and a scoreboard. But don't worry if you haven't got a scoreboard, because I'll just show you again another way that you can actually get on without. So this is the book that we're going to make here. It is really, really simple, and it does lend itself to all sorts of themes. This particular one I've used Graphic 45, Lost in Paradise, because I just can't get enough of this collection. I absolutely adore it. And then you can use any papers that you like. It doesn't matter at all. It'll fit to any. Hi Vicky. It'll fit to any theme at all. So we've got a little folio here. It is quite simple. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to open it up, so you can see that on the inside cover we've actually got a little shaped pocket, and then photo mats. I'm a great lover of photo mats because it means that we don't have to spoil our beautiful papers by covering them up with photos. On this side here we've just got a long pocket, photo mats again, that we're just going to pop into there. What are you doing? Is it not straight? No. That might be my board. Who knows? No, it's not straight. Thank you. Thank goodness for a technical director, Ray. Then when we open it up, we have got this little bit here. I don't know what you call this really. It's sort of like a foldery thing that opens up. And I know that people are particularly keen to know how I get my corners done when I come to mat it. So I will show you that in a subsequent video. Once again, some photo mats. Now, I haven't put any magnets on this, but I will put magnets on the one that I'm going to show you, and I'll put them on here so that you can see that. This bit, just another little simple pocket and some more photo mats. The back page is flat because obviously we're going to just have that on our desk when we're looking at it. And then the front cover, I hope you can see, the papers here just lend themselves to lots and lots of fussy cutting. So I've just done lots of cutting out and just layered things up. Now I'm still going to use Graphic 45 Lost in Paradise for the one that I'm going to do with you now, but I might use slightly different papers because I've used so many packs of this that I'm just kind of working with odds and ends. So without further ado, what we're going to do next is we're going to actually just get started. So when Mark's finished organising me, it'll do. We'll get started. So the first thing I want to do tonight is talk about Tyvek. Now, if you haven't come across this before, oops, it is a really, really, really cool bit of kit. And this, if you haven't seen it before, is Tyvek. And it just looks like paper. I don't know if you can see it here, but it's got all sorts of swirly little bits on it. It looks kind of like fiberglass, I suppose, but it's really thin and it's like paper, and it's actually used in house building for insulation purposes and to keep things together. It's a waterproof sort of thing. If you live in America, you're very lucky because I believe that the post office over there gives away Tyvek envelopes, so you don't have to pay for it. I do actually have some that I really need to put in the shop, and I will put a link up to that in due course. But why is Tyvek brilliant? Tyvek is brilliant because it doesn't tear. Now, if that was paper, that would have torn by now. It might crease a little bit, but it's not going to tear. And if we've got things like hinges or spines on our books that are going to be, you know, going backwards and forwards and used an awful lot, card is great, but it might not be as strong as we'd really like. So that's where Tyvek comes in, because it will absolutely strengthen what we're doing. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to use Tyvek on mine, and I'm going to attach this Tyvek to one piece of white card. Now, you can do this in any number of ways. You can either put wet glue all over it, use a brayer, stick it all down. You can use double-sided tape, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to attach some, oh, mine's all hairy, cat hair, I think. I'm going to attach some double-sided tape to my card. So let's see if I can get this in shot. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to be, oh, I've attached myself to my desk. Oh, this is where it gets fun because I can't cut out right-handed. Now I'm going to attach my double-sided tape really close together. If you are using glue, the reason why we're doing this first is so that it gives you glue a bit of time to set. But like I said, don't worry if you haven't got any Tyvek, it's not the end of the world. It's just that what it means is that your books will just stand up to more wear and tear. And you'll find that as we progress to other books, I use Tyvek more and more just to hold things together. Right, that'll do. Right, so I've got my double-sided tape here. I'm just going to pull that off. It's absolutely covered in cat hairs. And then I'm just going to lay my Tyvek down on top of it and stick it down. Okay. Now you can get coloured Tyvek. If you're coming to the retreat and you've chosen to do a black book, I'll be giving you some black Tyvek to go with your kit. It can either be single-sided or double-sided. I don't like the double-sided black too much because it tends to crack a bit with the colour. You can paint it, you can use ink to cover it. There's all sorts of different ways that you can kind of make it blend in to your books. So now I've stuck that to my desk. You can see I've got the Tyvek on one side and I've just got plain white card on the other. So I'm just going to put that to one side for a moment and we're going to get on with cutting. Now, we've had a few discussions lately about the order in which we do things. I have a tendency to cut everything out at the beginning and then just hope for the best. But what we're going to do is we're actually just going to try a different way tonight, and I'm going to cut out as I need things. So the the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to cut out our base pages. So the first thing I want you to do is take some of your A4 card, or card that will fit this size. If you're using 12 by 12 card, that's perfectly good too. And I want you to cut 3 pieces of card at 6 inches by 8 inches. Okay, well that worked well, so I'll put that to one side. Because you will need any spare offcuts. Don't chuck them away, because they're really, really great to use for your photo mats and things. So 3 pieces, 8 inches by 6 inches. Two. And I haven't got particularly dirty nails, just so you know. It's not odd stuff, it's actually paint. Okay, so there are 3 pieces that I've cut that are 6 inches by 8 inches. Next, I want you to cut 1 piece that is 6 inches by 9 inches. So that's 6 inches by 9 inches. And then finally, I want you to cut 2 pieces that are 6.5 by 9 inches. So that's 6.5 by 9 inches. I can't remember what I said now. 6.5 by 9. Yeah. Did I just cut that right? Yeah. Okay. And then if you put your trimmer to one side, we are going to get out our scoreboard and just do a bit of scoring. Now, if you haven't got a scoreboard, all is not lost by any stretch of the imagination. What I'm suggesting that you do there is you get your ruler and one of the embossing tools, you know, the ones that have got the little balls on the end, and if you just measure where you need your line to go, and then just, instead of say like drawing a pencil line or using your knife to cut, you would use the ball tool on the end of the embossing stick thing to just make that sort of valley indent on your card. So you don't have to have lots and lots and lots of really expensive equipment to make books. There's usually a way around things. So our first 3 pieces that are 6 by 8 inches, you'll be delighted to hear we don't actually have to score those at all, so you can put those to one side. Okay, now the other 3 pieces, the first one that I'm going to take is going to be the one that is 6 by 9 inches, and I want you to score on the 9-inch side at 1/2 inch and 8.5 inches. So when I say to you that I want you to cut on the 9-inch side, that means that your 9 inches, your length needs to be at the top of your scoreboard. Is this in shot? Can you see? I think it's in shot. So this is 6 inches by 9 inches. 9 inches is up at the top, and I want you to score at 1/2 inch. And I want you to score at 8.5 inches. So all we've got on this piece here is we've got 2 score lines, one at either end, essentially, with a 1/2 inch gap. Okay, put that to one side. Then I want you to get the next piece, which is 6.5 by 9 inches, And once again, we are going to score on the 9-inch side. So we're going to put that so that our 9-inch side is butted up against the top of our scoreboard. And surprise, surprise, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. And we're going to score at 8.5 inches. Then I want you to turn it 90 degrees so that we are scoring on the 6.5 inch side. And I want you to score at 1/2 inch. So what we've got here is a piece of card with 3 score lines that intersect. So you could look at it and say it's a bit of a U shape there, okay? And then I want you to do exactly the same with the other one. So on the 9-inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch, and we're going to score at 8.5 inches. And I want you to turn it 90 degrees. And on the 6.5 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay. And then we can put our scoreboard to one side for a moment. How are we all doing? Oh, I've lost my page now. Right. No questions? Are we all right? I'm just assuming that Mark's checking all this for me. Are you, dear?
Yes, I'm.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Brilliant. Okay, right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the 3 pages together. So what we're actually making at the moment is this page, and this page in the middle. It's actually just 3 base pages, and it's very, very easy to put together, and it will become very clear very quickly how it works. So our 3 that aren't scored, we're going to put those to one side again, and we're going to grab our pieces that are 6 by 9, where we've just got the 2 score lines, one at the top and one at the bottom. And what I want you to do is I want you to fold on those score lines, and I want you to get your bone folder if you've got one. Ruler will do well. There's all sorts of tools that you can use instead of a bone folder, and I want you to just make sure that you've got a really, really, really crisp fold there, and I want you to do the same at the top. So I like to burnish on both sides of mine. So what I've got now is I've got a piece here with 2 flaps. Okay, I'm just going to put that to one side. Now with these 2 pieces, which are the ones with 3 score lines, we are going to miter the corners where the score lines intersect. So if you've done this with me before, you'll know that I don't like to cut straight across here. I like to do it at a bit of an angle. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut up to the first point of where the score lines intersect here. And then I'm going to just slightly change the angle of my scissors, and I'm going to cut up there. So I've just cut off a piece that isn't a direct sort of straight across miter. It's actually slightly shaped. And I'm going to do that on the other end as well. So I'm going to cut up to where the score lines intersect, just slightly change the angle of my scissors and do that. So you'll see when I put it down here that that isn't a straight across line. There's actually a little kink in it. Can you see that? And I'm going to do the same with the other one. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these 3 flaps round like that. So that I've got 3 flaps here, and I'm just going to make sure that we've got a good sharp crease on them with my bone folder. And I'm going to do that on both sides. And then I'm going to do the same with the other side as well, the other piece as well. Right, so I've got my 3 flaps. Now we might have to do a little bit of trimming when we come to actually put the backs on our pages, because these are going to be essentially double pages. So we're going to start with this one, which is the one with the flaps just at the top and the bottom. And I'm going to take one of the plain pieces of paper that I've got, one of the plain pieces of card that we haven't scored, and I'm just going to check it for fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it inside those flaps there, and it is slightly too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my trimmer, and I'm just going to cut off something like 1/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to see if that means that my page will now fit in well, which it does. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put glue on the inside of these 2 flaps here and here. I'm going to lay that piece without any scoring on there, and I'm going to fold it round and adhere that. Now if you have a look, what that will actually leave us with is a page that is just going to be like that, so it's going to have a hole on both sides. So I'll just grab my glue and I will just make sure that those are stuck down well. I'll just change my glasses as well. Oh, the joys of getting older. I've got 4 pairs of glasses and I never know which one to use. So I'm using glue, wet glue. I always use wet glue. I like wet glue because it makes my pages really secure, because the last thing you want to do is spend ages and ages making a beautiful book and then have it all fall to pieces. So I am a lover of wet glue, certainly for the structure of a book. So I'm going to just lay down that piece that I've cut to size, make sure that it's level top and bottom, and then I'm just going to stick that down like that. Might just use my bone folder just to make sure that I've got a really good stick. There we go. So now you can see that I've got my page flat on one side, I've got my flaps on that side, but the page itself actually opens up with an end at either side. Okay, and I'm going to put that to one side to dry. Now if you've done classes with me before and you use a cutting mat, you'll know that I say put this underneath your cutting mat to dry, because it'll keep it nice and flat, because I think that's a great idea. However, I have no idea where I put my cutting mat. It was here earlier on, but you know, who knows. So what we're going to do now is get the next piece, which is there's 2 now to do exactly the same way, and we've got the piece with the 3 flaps. Now what we want to do first of all is just check whether or not this fits. It doesn't. I want to cut 1/8 of an inch off there. Let's just see if it fits now. Yep, it certainly does. And it fits in really nicely there too. We can always trim that off afterwards. So let me just check. You know what, it's going to be easier if I just take 1/8 of an inch off this one as well. Sometimes they fit and sometimes they don't. I sometimes think trimmers are out to get us. So let's just check that that one just fits in too, which it does. So what we're going to do is exactly the same again. We have got our piece of card that hasn't got any score marks in at all. We're going to slip that inside the flaps of our bigger piece, and we're going to glue it down. So what we're going to do is just put some wet glue on the inside of each of these flaps here. I'm going to make sure that our page fits in, lines up quite nicely. And we're going to stick that down. Okay, don't worry if your edges here don't quite match up. I think it's better to have a gap here than have it really bulky, because we've got a couple of bits sticking on top of each other. They will be covered, so it won't matter. So what you've got here is your page, flat on one side as you can see. This side has got the flaps that we've just glued, but it is only openable on one side. I'm not putting that anywhere near the camera, aren't I? So it's only actually openable on one side there. And we need to do that with the other one as well. Okay, so let's just stick that down. Okay, don't worry that that's not quite right. I can cut that off in a minute. But there we go. So what we've essentially got now is our 3 pages. And as you'll see, these are going to form our folio. So the pages where we've got the just the one end open, that's going to be our front and back, and then in the middle we've got the middle bit of the folio, which you've already seen. So whilst that's just drying, before I come to trim it, what we are going to do next is we are going to actually cut the hinge of the book. So looking at it here, it's this bit and this bit here. We've got quite a wide gap because what we want to be able to do is put our photos in and not have to worry about the book not closing up properly, because when I'm making books, one of the worst things for me, if I'm following another tutorial, is not actually having enough room to put decoration or lots and lots of photos in there. So I do tend to make my books with, Sarah, don't you laugh now, or Maggie, but quite wide gussets. So you'll be delighted to hear that tonight we've had both flaps and gussets, and it's not a class if we haven't. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make those up, and as you can see here at the edge of my book, those are the gaps that we've got. So I want you to take the piece of card. If you've added Tyvek, fantastic. If you haven't, that's fantastic too. Now, Tyvek will not tear, but it will cut with scissors, it will cut with a knife, and it will cut with a trimmer. So I'm going to use my trimmer now, and I'm going to cut my hinges. And I am going to cut 2 pieces exactly the same at 8 inches by 2.5 inches. Oh. So let me just check which end I didn't. Right, so 8 inches, let's have a look. So that's 8 inches by 2.5 inches. I'm just going to trim this off first. Okay, so 2.5 inches, which is there. Okay. Like I said, you can just use card. You don't have to use Tyvek. I just like it because it gives a bit of a longer life to your book if you like. So there we go. I've got 2 pieces there, 8 inches by 2.5 inches, and I'm going to get my scoreboard out now and I'm going to score. You can just assume that the Tyvek is going to behave in exactly the same way as the card now. So because I know that the Tyvek is going to go on the inside of my hinge or my gusset, I'm actually going to put that Tyvek side up, and it really doesn't matter which way you do it. But now I'm going to score on the 2.5 inch side, so that means that I've got the 2.5 inches up at the top of my scoreboard, and I am going to score at 1 inch and at 1.5 inches. So if you look at my piece here, I have got a 1 inch, a 1 inch and a half an inch in the middle with 2 parallel score lines going right down the centre. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other one. So I'm going to score it at 1 inch, and I'm going to score it at 1.5 inches on the 2.5 inch side. I'm going to put my scoreboard to one side. Okay, we're all right. Right, now these are what are going to hold our book together, but to make them fit, it really helps if we mitre the bits that we're going to slip into our pages. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I am just going to cut, and it doesn't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, from the edge of my piece up to where that score line is. So if I just cut now at a slight angle, you can see that what I've done is I've cut here, but that 1/2 inch gap in the middle, that's actually not touched at all. So once again, I'm just going to cut up to that score line. I did that really badly, let's do it again. I'm just going to cut up to that score line there, where the Tyvek is. Okay, and I'm going to do that on both pieces. Okay, so I've now got my hinges or my gussets or whatever it is that you want to call it. So now I'm going to get my pages, and I'm just going to make sure that everything's level as it should be. So I'm just going to, one of them was over a bit, maybe it's not my imagination. Up there. I'm just going to trim that down slightly. There we go, so that it's flush. Now my book is going to go together like this. So I have got my outside page with the gap facing towards the middle page, which is the piece that opens up on both sides, and then on this far side I've got the piece where the gap is opening to the middle piece, and these two just slot in here. So the first thing we need to do is just make sure that they fit. So if we just move the ends out for a moment, I'm going to take my piece of Tyvek and card with the Tyvek facing upwards, and you can see that this bit here is where the flaps are on my book. So that's actually facing upwards. So it's Tyvek side, flap side, and I'm just going to check for fit first. And just pop that in there, and it could do with a sliver just taken off. If you're going to do that, just bear in mind where your cuts are going to go for the hinge. Right, now that fits absolutely perfectly. So what I've done is I've taken the hinge and I have fitted it, I have slotted it into my middle piece, into where the gap was here, up to where that first score line is. Okay, so I've got a score line across here and I've got a score line across there, but I can fit that in absolutely perfectly and it fits up to the line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually glue that in place. So I'm going to take some of my wet glue and I'm going to put some on the Tyvek side and I'm going to put some on the card side. I'm going to slot that into my book there so that it juts up perfectly to that score line, and I am going to glue it down so that basically I have just totally enclosed that middle page of my book. Okay, and I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So first of all, I'm just going to check for fit. It's not far off at all. Pretty much perfect. So that I'm going to put some glue now, some wet glue on the Tyvek side of my hinge, or my gusset, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to put some glue on the back. I'm going to slip that into the open side of my page. Jut the end of the page up to where the score line on my hinge is. And I'm going to glue that down. So now we've got our middle page of the book, but there is no way of getting into it. The strength of our book actually comes from the fact that it's two pieces of card thick. So there is no gap here. This is all glued in, and that's all glued in there, and the same on that side. Now I'm just going to change my glasses again because I want to see that you're all following me, because I don't want to go on unless you're understanding where we are. Yep. How are we doing? I know you're all working really hard, but can you, pardon Maggie? If you can just let me know whether or not this all makes sense. Well, oh, Maggie, I'm guessing that Pip might just have walked across your keyboard, perhaps. Would that be? Or is it just a really fancy swear word that I don't know? I don't. Oh, maybe it's my salary. I'm not quite sure. Really? So, does this make sense? How are we doing? Is everybody following me? Because I really don't want to go any further. Right, Wendy, you're okay. That's good stuff. Natalie, fantastic. Good. Okay. The thing is with books, they're not rocket science. Pip happened there, I think, Maggie. Or maybe were you leaning on your keyboard when you were working? But I honestly believe you can make the most beautiful books with so little experience. I don't think you need any at all, to be honest with you. I just hope that you know, this isn't foxing anybody just yet. So, okay, I'm going to put my other glasses back on, which means I can't see what you're writing, and I'll get on a little bit. So this should be quite obvious what we're going to do next. We are going to take the outside bit of our book. And just to keep things nice and tidy, remember to keep the flaps on the inside. So we're working on the bit so that we can actually see the flaps. I think you can kind of see here on the film, on the video, where the flaps are. So what we're going to do is just make sure that we've got a good fit, which we have. So you can see where we're going to put that page now. We've got our page, we've got that 1/4 of an inch gusset here, we've got our middle page, another 1/4 of an inch gusset there, and then we're going to have the final page. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of glue on my Tyvek side, and then on my card side. I'm going to just slip that into my book, make sure that it juts up to where my score line is, and I'm going to stick that down. So now I've totally enclosed my outside cover, and that actually becomes one piece of card, essentially, front and back. So surprise, surprise, that's exactly what we're going to do here. Let me just check it for fit. Once again, that's perfect. So I'm just going to attach some wet glue to both sides of my hinge, my gusset, or whatever you want to call it. Oh, I'm making a mess. And I'm going to attach that there. Okay. So what we've got now, we've got the base of the book done. It's actually really rather nicely solid now. But what I'm going to do before we go any further with this particular bit is I'm just going to leave that to dry. So for me, that means sticking it under my mat. So hold on 2 ticks. That'll go under my mat. Okay, how are we doing? Is everybody caught up? Right, okay, what we're going to do now is we are going to make the pockets and the folder for the book. If you have a look at the tutorial that I've written, you will see here I've actually drawn a diagram of what each page is like. So page 1 is your outside cover. In fact, let me show you here. Page 1 is your I've lost all my bits now. Page 1 is your outside cover. Page 6 is the back. And page 5 is this bit here with the long pocket. Okay. Page 2 is this fancy bit, which we'll do in due course, because that'll all be different depending on which pattern papers we choose to use. And then page 3 is this flappy thing, which I really should give a name to. I don't know what it is. And then page 4 is this sort of a third of a page pocket here. So I think what we'll start with is we're going to cut out this pocket and we're going to cut out this pocket. Okay, so that will do to start with. So I want you to get some more of your white card or whatever colour card that you're using, a couple of sheets, and the side pocket, that nice long side pocket, we're going to cut that first. And I want you to cut one piece at 4 by 9 inches. So I'm going to cut that at 4 by 9 inches. Okay, like that. Then our smaller pocket, if this is wide enough, oh darn it, which it isn't, get another piece of card. Remember that we can use those offcuts for our photo mats. I want you to cut this piece at 4.5 by 5.5 inches. That doesn't sound right to me. No, ignore that. I want you to cut 7 inches by 4 inches. So, is that what we've just cut? No, we cut one 4 by 9 and then this one's 4 by 7. Okay. I want you to get your scoreboard again. And we'll start on the smaller piece, which was 4 by 7. And I want you to score on the 7-inch side, so that means the 7-inch goes at the top of our scoreboard. I want you to score at 1/2 inch and at 6.5 inches. Then I want you to turn it 90 degrees so that we're now working on the 4-inch side, and I want you to score at 1/2 inch. Because once again, if you've made a pocket before, you'll know how easy this is. We've got our 3 intersecting score lines. Now this other pocket, the long one, is exactly the same, it's just longer. So we're going to start off by scoring on the 9-inch side at 1/2 inch and at 8.5 inches. I want you to turn your card 90 degrees to the 4-inch side and then score at 1/2 inch. So once again, we've got our 3 score lines with 2 intersecting little squares here. You'll be getting very, very used to doing these now. You'll be a dab hand at pockets because they're always done in exactly the same way. So what we're going to do, surprise, is we're going to actually miter our corners. So once again, I'm going to cut up to the score line where it intersects, and I'm just going to move my scissors a little bit. I've got them covered in tape. And just cut at a slightly different angle, and I'm going to do that on both of these pockets. Okay. Now, if you want to get all fancy, one of the things that you can do is cut those finger hole things into your pockets. I'm going to just cut one onto the smaller pocket just to show you how I do it. Now, I've got a big, this is a 2-inch punch here. You can use whatever size circle punch you like, But what I'm going to do first of all is I'm actually going to measure, and I put my ruler somewhere really safe so I wouldn't lose it here. And I'm just going to measure on the back of my pocket where the halfway mark is. So this measures 7 inches, half of which is 3.5. And I'm just going to make a mark here at 3.5 inches so that I can take a pretty good guess as to where I'm going to cut my finger hole. Totally optional, this bit, by the way. So you can see along the top of my pocket here, because I've got my mitered corners down the bottom, I've made a little mark. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my punch and I'm going to eyeball this just to see roughly where half of my paper goes into the punch, okay? And I'm just going to punch it out. And of course, oh, there we go. I had to pick a punch that didn't work. So what I've got now is I've got my pocket, but I've cut out this little finger hole here. You can do exactly the same on this one if you want to. It's entirely up to you. I just wanted to show you a few options. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to fold my pockets into pockets. Exactly the same way as we did with our pages earlier. We're just going to fold over and we're going to burnish to make sure that we get a really, really good fold. Okay, and the same on the long pocket. Okay, so I've got my 2 pockets there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my book, which I think is not stuck to the bottom of my mat, and I'm just going to fold it into position. So just going to fold this on where the score lines are on our hinges here. Okay. And there you see, that's actually our book. So this is the front cover of the book. We open it up. This is where we're going to put that fancy pocket when we know which pattern papers we're using. This is going to be that funny foldery thing. And on this side is where we're going to put that small pocket. So as you see, that fits in perfectly there. So this is the inside of the 3. I'm going to just put a little bit of glue. Can't do it right-handed, hang on, I have to change hands, joys of being left-handed. Cut out right-handed though, just to be completely awkward. So a little bit of glue on my flaps. I can hear Maggie giggling. And I'm just going to glue that down into place and it should fit absolutely perfectly. There. Okay, so our long pocket is actually going to go on this bit of the cover here. So I'm just going to turn my book over and I'm just going to make sure that it fits, which it does more or less. I'm going to put some glue onto my pocket. And I'm just going to adhere that down. Let's just make sure that fits. Okay. So make sure when you glue your pocket down that the opening of your pocket is facing towards the edge of your book. Otherwise it'll just be awkward getting any of your photo mats out. Okay. So there we go. Book folds up, we've got a cover, open up, we've got our long pocket, open up again, and we've got our short pocket there. So what we're going to work on now is this middle bit here. So this is page 3. Where the long pocket goes, Lou. Yeah, right, so this is the inside of your book. This is where, hold on, let me get my original and it'll make better sense. So, if I fold this up, Here's my original. I just want to make sure this is in shot, because I've probably got it too far up. Hold on a tick, let me just catch up. Seem to be working lower down today. Right, so here's my front cover. Where did that go? Oh, there we go. So there's my front cover. I'm going to open it up. Here you can see this is where this funny shaped pocket's going to go. My long pocket goes here on this bit that's as we open. But to be honest with you, you can mix and match this. They don't have to go, everything's the same size. So you can actually put it wherever you like. It really doesn't matter. And then when you open up your book, you've got your short pocket, which is this one here and here, okay? But you can mix and match. It really doesn't matter what order they go in at all. So your long pocket is going on the back of the page with the short pocket essentially, okay? And what we're going to do next is we're going to make this thing, which, can anybody come up with a name for it for me? Because I don't really know what to call it. It's a foldery thing, but that's what we'll do next. Okay, so just put your book to one side because we're going to get our trimmer and our scoreboard out again, and we're just going to cut some pages. So I want you to cut 2 pieces at 8 by 4 inches. So let's have a look. I'll cut that at 8, and then I'm going to cut one at 4 and one at 4. So I've got 2 pieces 8 by 4 inches. Hang on, Mark's asking me a technical question and I have no idea what he's on about. Oh, that was your suggestion for the name. Yes. Ah, an exploding page. Oh, no, sorry, you've been beaten by Sheila. Mock envelope. I kind of like that. Oh, stable door from Sarah. Quad fold from Lou. That sounds very technical. Have to think about this. Okay, so we have this funny thing that we haven't decided what we're calling it yet. Apparently I've called it an enclosed folder page. Gosh, you learn something new every day. It's been a while since I wrote this one. We've cut 2 pieces 8 by 4, and then we need to cut another 2 pieces that are 6 by 3. So 6 inches by 3 inches. 2. So we've got 2 pieces that are 6 inches by 3 inches, and we've got 2 pieces that are 8 inches by 4 inches. And what we're going to do now is we're going to get our scoreboard, and we're just going to score at 1/2 inch. So I want you to take the 2 smaller pieces, which were 6 by 3, and on the 3 inch side, that means 3 across the top here, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. And we're going to do the same on both of them. Then we're going to get our bigger pieces, which are 8 by 4. We're going to score on the 4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and that's exactly the same on both. Now, if you made my Hobbycraft mini book with me, we'll already have made something really similar to this in that book. And what I did there was I actually just used a corner rounder just to round these corners here, and then it all folded up and whatever. However, we're going to do this one slightly differently because I think it's nice to just do something a bit different. So what I'm going to need now is my ruler, and I am going to need a pencil, which I have no idea if I... Oh, yes, I do. Okay. So we're going to start off on the bigger one. In fact, I'm just going to double check how much of a difference I made. I think it's an inch, but I'll just, yeah, it was. Okay. I'm going to put my flap up that way, so I've got the score line here at the very, very bottom. And I am going to use my ruler and my pencil, and I am going to measure in 1 inch from the left-hand side top bit of my card, and I am going to measure in 1 inch from the right-hand side top bit of my card. So now what I've got is I've got my piece of card, which was 8 by 4 inches. I have scored it down the bottom here at 1/2 inch, and I have got 2 pencil marks in 1 inch from the edge of the top, so the end that is opposite the scored bit. Okay, and I'm going to do that again on the other piece. So I'm going to measure in 1 inch from the top left hand side and from the top right hand side. So I've got my marks there and there. I'm then going to take these smaller pieces. I've got my score mark right at the very bottom, and once again I'm going to measure in, but here I think I'll just measure in 3/4 of an inch. Could do 1 inch, probably did do on the original. I'm just trying something a bit different. So I'm going to measure in 3/4 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch. So all 4 of my flaps now have got these little pencil marks on. Okay, right, what we're going to do now is we're going to cut. So if you get your trimmer or scissors or knife or however you want to do it, I'm now going to line up my pencil mark to where the score line is, not to where the very, very bottom corner is, but to where the score line is. And I'm just going to lift this up so you can see. On my trimmer, that line there is where the blade actually cuts. So here I've got the little pencil mark, and I have got where the score line is. I don't want it that way because I don't want it right to the edge. I want it to be where the score line is. So that's going to match up there. And I'm just going to cut that now. Okay, so I've cut off a little triangle, but just to make it clearer, I've actually got still that straight bit there because I've only cut down to where the score line meets the edge of the paper. Okay, and I'm going to do the same on the other side as well. Okay, so here I've got my straight piece straight up to the score line, and then it's cut at an angle. Okay, and I'm going to do that on each piece. They're all exactly the same. They have to be cut from where we've made our mark down to where the score line is, not where the edge of the card is. Okay, so I've cut down to where the score line is there, not where the edge of the card is. It's worth just taking a moment just to line it all up to make sure that it's cutting in the right place. If you want to do it like we did in the other one, just with a corner rounder, that's absolutely fine. But I just thought, you know, we'll do something a bit different with this one. Okay, now I can put my trimmer to one side. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold on our score lines. There's my bone folder. I'm going to make sure that I've got a good sharp crease. Okay, and I'm going to do that on all 4 pieces. Oh, well, just watch along, Maggie. It's nice to have you here. When I win the lottery, I'll buy you a craft building. Oh, hello, Mel. Goodbye, Mel. I didn't even realise you were here. You've been very quiet. Okay. Right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to glue them into our book. So I'm just going to open it up. Remember that you've got your flat piece on the front, and this on my book is going to go in the middle. Now I find personally that it's easier to put the longer pieces on first and then the inside pieces. So I'm just going to check for size. It might be worthwhile just slightly tapering these corners. So as you can see, what I've done now is I've cut from the score line inwards, so we've got a really weird shaped piece of paper. I'm just going to do that just because it actually makes adding these bits in a little bit simpler. Right, wrong glasses again, needless to say. Hang on, I'll just change them. Okay, and I'm just going to make sure that that fits in there, which miraculously it does. I'll just trim that because that's a bit untidy. I need a new blade in my trimmer. Right, let's have a look. Yep, that fits really nicely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just get some glue. Pop that on the outside of my flap, and I'm just going to stick this right to the edge of the middle page, right up to where the fold is, and I'm just going to glue that down. Okay, and I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side as well. So let's just check that it fits, which it should do. Yes, it does. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on my flap, and I'm going to glue that down. Okay, right, now I'm going to fold those open, and I'm going to add these little ones in. I'm just going to make sure that they fit, which it does. I don't know why I sound so surprised. I've made quite a few of these. You'd think by now I'd know that it works. And I'm just going to glue that in right up to the bottom part of my page. Let's turn my book round. Some glue, and I'm just going to stick that down there. Okay, so now I've got my exploding e-boxy foldery thingery doodah. So this page we've still got to do. This is going to be our fancy pocket, which we'll do in a moment. This is our thing that has no name. This is our half pocket, that's our long pocket, that's the back, and that's the front. So we're really nearly there. I think if you've managed to keep up with me tonight, you're doing really well. We're good. But the last thing that I want to do is actually just to do this pocket here. Now the easiest way to do a pocket, I think, that's got a bit of a shape to it, because as you can see here, I just chose this toucan to be my pocket, is actually just to take a piece of card, and I'm just going to double check the measurement. I want you to cut a piece of card about 5.5 inches square, roughly. It can be a bit bigger than that. It can be up to 6 inches, but 6 inches is pretty much your maximum, I reckon. So I'm just going to do mine 5.5 inches square. And then what we're going to do is, this is the last bit of scoring you'll be delighted to hear. We're just going to make 2 score lines, because this is square at 5.5 inches. I'm just going to score at 1/2 inch, turn my page, turn my flap 90 degrees and just score again there. So we've just got 2 intersecting score lines there. Now what I need to do is choose which piece of paper I want to use for my pocket, and I think I will use one of these sheets, and I'm going to decide which bit I like. Now I kind of like this flower here, and I like that bird. I like that bird. Decisions. I'm going to go with the butterflies. So this is very wasteful for paper, I know. But I'm just going to decide where I want the edge of my pocket to be, and I am going to go, let's just have a look, about there. Right. Now what I'm going to do, if I can find the right scissors, because I seem to have every pair except the pair that I want. No idea. These aren't my fussy cutting scissors. I'm just going to cut roughly where I want my piece to go. 2 seconds while I just find the proper scissors. Got them. Okay. So essentially this is going to fit onto here like that. But first of all, what I've got to do is just cut out where I want these things to go. So oops. So find a piece of paper that you like the pattern on. I mean, if you don't want to do a shaped pocket, you don't have to at all. You can just simply, you know, cut the paper into a square or a rectangle shape and just mat a pocket as you would any of them. I just like to do things a little bit differently now and again. Oh, great shot, just dropped my glasses on the floor. Yep, hold on, Luke. See, what I've done here is I've used this toucan and I've just cut round. I've stuck this bit on afterwards, so don't worry about that, but I've just chosen a piece of paper that I like the design of and just cut round it. This is the nice thing about Graphic 45, is that there are 1,000,001 nice shapes on the designs that we can cut round. Just going to tidy that up a bit. Now remember, if you want to ink your edges of your paper, feel free to do so. I'm not going to on this one, but you certainly can do. Right, so there, that's going to be my pocket. So now I've got my piece of card, which is filthy. I don't know what I've done to that. And you can see where my score lines intersect. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to glue this piece of of patterned paper onto my pocket, but just inside the score line, so that I've got a little bit of the white showing. So I've got a score line down here, I've got a score line across there, but what I'm going to do is just glue so that it's probably about 1/8 of an inch showing between the score line and my pattern paper. Okay, so I'm just going to glue that down. Just make sure that I've got a little bit of a gap because that looks pretty. Okay. Right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut around it again. But I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap, probably about 1/8 of an inch from my card. So that I've got a nice defined edge, as I will have on every pocket, etc. that I'm at. So as you can see here, I'm cutting round where I've just fussy cut, but there is a little bit of a gap so that you can see about 1/8 of an inch of the white card. Now do bear in mind that when you are doing this, if you've done this exactly the same design as me, i.e. your pocket's in the same place, that this pocket is actually going to go on the left hand side of the book, so you'll need to make sure that your flaps are on the left hand side. If you've chosen to do your book the another way round and put different bits, just bear in mind where your pocket's going to go and which side your flaps need to be. So say for instance,
Sheila says hi.
Hi Sheila. If you have your book on the right, if you have this pocket on the right hand side of your book, you'll need to make sure that these flaps here, these bits here, are on the right hand side. Oh, got my scissors all stuck. Oh, brilliant. I'll just cut through that. We'll ignore it. I meant to do that. Ideally, it probably would have been best to have let this dry a little bit, but needs must. Okay, so there's my pocket. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut where these score lines intersect again, the same way as we always do with the pockets, up to where the score lines intersect, and then just change the degree of my scissors a little bit, and then we're going to fold it up and burnish it. Oh, I did that well. That's better. Okay, I'm just going to trim that slightly because I don't want to be seeing that when I come to map my book. Okay, Well, hopefully you'll do this rather better than me. I haven't left much of a gap there. But there you get the idea of what the pocket's going to be like. Is this still going?
Yep.
Okay. Right, so I'm going to get my book. And I'm going to glue my pocket down there. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the flap. And I'm just going to glue that flush up to the edges of my book. Okay, so now I've got a little pocket so I can put photo mats in. Okay, so you get the gist of it. Right, now that is as much as I wanted to get done tonight for you all, because now it's just the decorating. We've actually made the worst part of the folio. That's all done. So what I'm going to do, certainly I've got a surprise weekend free this weekend because I didn't realise how long the month was. I am going to do some of the decorating and, oh God, I've stuck that in really badly. I'm going to do some of the decorating and I will post up the video as quickly as I can for you. But you know how to decorate. If you're going to do your own thing and you're not using the same papers as me, then go ahead. Make sure that you remember to put in, and I love work in progress shots, what you've been doing and how you're getting on into the group, because I always love to see those because they inspire me such a lot. I've been so impressed with what everybody's been putting in there, so thank you so much for sharing with me. But yeah, put some work in progress shots in. And I think for now that will do. So in the next video what I'll do is I'll decorate, I'll teach you how to put the magnets on, and I will teach you how to easily mat these really rather weird shapes here, because I know that that's something that somebody's asked me about. So I think as far as I'm concerned that we're done. Loki is going to come and say hello. Thank you, Loki. So thank you very much for spending this evening with me. If anybody's got any questions, then just give me a shout. And I'll just introduce you to my Loki. Say hi. Oh no, hang on. Let me just put... Here we go. Say hi, Loki. There's Loki. Say hello. Say hello. No, he doesn't want to play. Okay, right, so... as far as I'm concerned, that's done. And, oh, there he is. Say hello. Oh, he's so gorgeous. Cat's not bad either. And I will see you all very, very much. So thank you for spending this evening with me. And like I said, drop me a line if you get stuck. And I will see you all very, very soon. Thank you. Bye.